All right, welcome to Dose of Reality with Shukri. Good evening, everyone, and those tuning in. Today we are going to. We are a little bit late. We are sorry about that. We had a technical issue, as always. Well, lucky us, we are live today, and we're going to be talking about mental health, community support, infectious disease. We have a doctor, which will be Abdulkader Ahmed, and we have Varun Saeed for mental health, and we have our community support person who is Fartoon. They're all here joining us. Please welcome them. And also, if you have any questions, please write under the comments and they will be able to answer any questions that you need. Rune will be with us for 30 minutes and the rest will continue the conversation for a 1 hour session. All right. Hi, everyone. Can you please introduce yourself, Ahmed? Dr. Abdul Qadir, go ahead and introduce yourself. Okay. No problem. He will join in later then when he's available. Let's go ahead, Rune, and introduce yourself.
He's back. Do you want him to introduce himself or
No,
should I?
no, you
Okay.
go ahead. He will.
Okay. My name is Tom Saeed. I am a mental health therapist. I've been practicing for several years now. I work with individuals, families. I especially enjoy doing parenting work and working with parents. Um, I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Minnesota, where I hope to do research on how trauma impacts parenting.
Okay,
Thank you for
thank you so
having me.
much. Yeah, thank you. All right, Fartun, are you there? Okay, Abdul Qadir, go ahead and introduce yourself. We're doing the introduction.
Okay. So my name is Abdulkader Ahmed. I went to college at Ohio State, did my med school in Tennessee, and did my residency here in Minneapolis at Abbott. Did my infectious disease fellowship at the University of Minnesota, and I'm working at the University of Minnesota. I do research mainly on HIV.
Okay, thank you. Fartun, are you there?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shukri. I'm the director from the American Women Action Center. And we have been doing the organization of our office for years now. And we're here to help the community as, this COVID-19, and we are continue doing this work.
All right. Thank you so much, Fartun, for joining us. I appreciate that. We're gonna go ahead and start a little bit about Rune Said about the mental health, which we have a lot of issues in our community, and we're looking to change some of those. Um, could you tell us how our community should open up on this specific mental state without being judged in our community? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's a large stigma in our community, I think in society in general, but if we're focusing on our community,
Yes.
there is a large stigma with mental health and people either seeking help or disclosing that they have a diagnosis. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what needs to happen is probably education. So normalizing that mental illness does not mean that there's like something wrong with you. Just as we would take care of someone with a physical ailment, we would take care of someone with a mental illness. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that, I think a lot of the times there's that disconnected feeling that perhaps there's a lack of faith or low iman, and we seek other ways that are comfortable to our
Mm-hmm.
community in seeking services, which I think is totally fine. Faith is an important uh, protective factor, we say in the mental health community. So
Mm-hmm.
incorporating that is fine. But we also want to utilize the medical profession, right? So going to psychiatry, going to therapy, and seeking that. But I think because of that shame component, it's really hard for people to go out and utilize these services. So starting off with having more of these discussions, creating more awareness, so people
Mm-hmm.
understand what a mental illness means, what are some of the symptoms. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think we feel more comfortable disclosing physical symptoms. So like I
Mm-hmm.
have a headache, I have a stomach ache versus I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed. Um, because those physical elements you can kind of see, but you can't see anxiety, you can't see depression. It doesn't show up on a test.
That's
So I
true.
think creating more of that awareness and really letting go of that shame component. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you because you have a mental illness. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That is super great way of explaining, how they feel. How can we prompt and encourage them to seek out professional help if necessary? Most of the time, I think being afraid to make that move and being judged is what makes them scared. What are the ways that we can find ourselves, like our audience, our society, to find ways of forgetting to judge, but have a prompt way of just, being there for them, and so that they don't feel ashamed?
Yeah, so just really listening when people come to you with their problems and not saying, "Oh, like you should have done this," or like this is wrong with you. A lot of the youth that I work with are feel like they're told like, "Oh, you should pray more," or you should like really just they hear a lot of invalidating
Mhm.
statements. So how
Mhm.
can we support them? And then once they feel supported, maybe they're opening up more and maybe they're more willing um, to talk about it or to perhaps try therapy or and I think for our community we talk a lot, but we don't talk about the important things or the things
Yeah,
that we fear are going to bring us
affect.
judgment or like we view it as like it's shameful, it's ebb, so we sweep it away. And maybe that if we don't discuss it, it will go away, but it doesn't work like that, as we know.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go with this. The other question will be for Dr. Abdulkader. I'm gonna have you answer a couple of questions in regards to COVID-19. Since you said you're an infectious disease for HIV, I just had wanted to hear a little bit of your voice on regards to this effect that we have for COVID-19. What thoughts do you have in regards to our community and how they can work through this? Dr. Abdulkader, Valerie, is he there?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's okay. So infectious disease is a subspecialty of internal medicine. So HIV is just one disease process among a lot of different diseases that we train in. So in terms of coronavirus, your question was, what can we do as a community?
Mhm.
The biggest thing to do here is make sure that we follow the guidelines that are out there now in terms of, you know, social distancing, hand hygiene, and if one has symptoms, to self-isolate themselves from their household. If one can afford to, if they one test is positive or has symptoms concern for coronavirus, to remove themselves from a large household if they live in a large household. So that way the disease is not transmitted to other members of the family.
Wow.
Uh, so those are the basic things we can do. Another thing is early on when this announcement was made that there will be stay at home orders and shelter at home, however you want to put it. There are a lot of people that didn't take that seriously, and the one thing that I've noticed is a lot of Somali people are socializing still quite a bit and going to visiting each other quite a bit. And a lot of times they might be asymptomatic. The problem with this disease in particular is there's a lot of asymptomatic transmission. That is why it's essential to keep that social distance, and at least for now, till things are under control.
Okay. What would you know if somebody had it? What are the symptoms that they're going to have it? Even though we already know that they're saying also that you wouldn't recognize if you have it. For example, how do I know I have it? And I'm not
Well,
sure, but I feel
that's
good.
That's a tricky thing about it. So there are a lot of people, actually, as much as 40 to 60%, in some, according to certain series or according to certain studies, that people are asymptomatic, and those people tend to be the healthier people, younger of age. So, and the symptoms vary quite a bit. You can have anywhere from having a fever, which can be seen in 80 to 90% of the people that are symptomatic, to
Mhm.
basically just having some body aches and just feeling tired. So it can vary quite a bit. And that is why, there are other respiratory infections, viral respiratory infections, bacterial low respiratory infections that could have similar symptoms. It's hard to just kind of, it's actually very difficult to diagnose this particular coronavirus, the COVID-19, just by symptoms. But most symptoms that I'm hearing and I'm seeing, the patients that come to our hospital and that we encounter, they usually start off with just kind of feeling tired, fatigue, body aches, and then another common symptom they report is cough. It could be either dry cough or productive cough. It just varies quite a bit, but and fevers. Fevers is a predominant symptom that we would
Okay.
one would have.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdulkader. Just another quick question for you. There are so many diseases that I just find out that we went through them and we came out of it, such as AIDS, tuberculosis, influenza, and all this kind. What made this so different this time that we all had to be home? Is it because of the contagious part of it, or?
Yeah, so there are still a lot of people that have HIV in the world, and but the mode of transmission is the difference. As you know, TB too. TB has a large burden. There are a lot of people that still have TB in the third.
Mhm.
So, but the different aspect of this particular virus is very infectious and pathogenic and easily transmissible. So, and that is why a lot of you're hearing a lot of the media talk about this in terms of how this gets transmitted. Is it just by contact? Is it by droplets? Does it get aerosolized? So what that means is if somebody is there's actually some people that are speculating that if somebody's close enough to you and they're just talking to you, they can
Mhm.
transmit this. So it's very easy to transmit. And they're saying on average, one person that is infected will transmit it to, or infect another three people, and so forth. So kind of you can see how it can exponentially grow really quickly. So
Okay.
um, so that's the different aspect to it, that it's very easily transmissible and highly and infectious. Of what we sometimes the terminology we use is a virulent organism. So it doesn't take much to transmit it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You stay tuned for more questions. I'm gonna get back to you. All right, let's go to Fartoon. Hi, Fartoon.
Hello. Hi.
Uh, Tell me what you've been doing for the community. I saw a couple of videos being shared. You were doing a great work that I had to bring you to the show today. Talk about what you're doing on regarding of the mask. I know you have page that you have that you saw. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Somali American Women Action Center, so work have been doing a face mask, and um, for now, I mean, across the world and here in Minnesota, this we're all facing this circumstance that we have never encountered before, and our women that were doing this project, the Sewing for Living project, which is the sewing classes, have been stepped up and said we want to help the community by this, at this time of crisis, and what we did was sewing for fabric mask by using our old fabric that we used to have in our sewing classes, and a donation from all around the countries, all around with Minnesota. And this was helping the community, and we realized that with the hospitals and all the clinic in need of looking for some kind of masses
Support.
to the community. So it's not that much, but I mean, by giving back to the community, the little thing that we have was grateful for us and giving back to the community. So this not only that giving back to the community, but this was helping our women,
Yes.
especially the women who were participating in the sewing classes, because you can totally understand that being in lockdown in a home and not doing anything, and kids yelling all around, in a very, just like a square feet of, like all of us in one room. So
Yes.
it is, instead of them stressing of where to start from something, what to do and what to get busy with. And as our sister have shared with us about mental issues, I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like this was a call for them not to be like stressed and say, where, how can I find something, how can I do something. They get
Yeah.
busy doing fabric, and making the masks and giving back to the community. So they feel they doing something, and they're not wasting their time not going to work or not just stuck at home. So
Yes.
this was a great work for us. And right now, currently, we're working a project that we have been requested from the North Memorial Hospitals, that they
Good.
requested us to make a map.
Mm-hmm.
And we're almost over 100 now, but they need more than that. So, and we donated more than 500 over the last
Much.
weeks. And
And
the other,
how many women are doing that? How many women?
we have over 15 women now that are
Wow.
actually working from their home. And I'm very grateful from other funders who are trying to fund us by this. And we're trying to create some kind of employment for them, that by giving back this, because none of them, I mean, not all of them are working right now, because they scared for their life, and they don't want to affect the kids. They want to stay home. And most of them have been doing a small businesses by selling some things. So which that have stopped, and their store have been closed. So this is a great call, and from a lot of other organizations and funders who are funding the community. And I'm very appreciated that they're doing this. And
Thank
one other thing that we're doing as an organization is that we're educating the community by virtual, either conference calls, or either by videos that we created at WhatsApp groups. So we send a daily WhatsApp video, and then we share with them about how they can protect themselves and where they can go. There's a lot of resources that we have been partnered with. For example, Proficient Community is an organization that started a restaurant that you pay as you can, and whatever you have you paid it. Now with this crisis, what they did was they actually giving free food to the community whoever cannot afford anything and
you.
really wants to go there. So this
Mhm.
is an opportunity, and we're just trying to find all around who can give something and who can advise the community to give something. So we connected that with them. And I was also doing lately about the sensor, encouraging the community about the sensors, which my community, they don't take that much of, I mean,
Serious, yeah.
not all of us, but most of our community, they don't see that this will affect us. So I mean, I don't want us the COVID-19 to stop us what we could do next 10 years, or what we could stop from being affected as about next 10 years. So I'm encouraging them to go out and check their mailbox, and if they find any sensor, fill it up the form, or reach out to the nearest community that can help you, nearest person that can help you fill it up.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah.
they do have an option to be they can go also online and fill it out. Matter of fact, I did that way, and it was very, very easy. So they will receive a mail that has a code number, I think ID number. They'll go online and they'll log in sensors. It's very easy, and very easy questions that they can answer. Thank you so much. You guys are doing a great job. I mean, I admire your work, having 15 women and making almost thousands and thousands of masks for all the people who are in need of it, and also connecting with the hospital that may be short on masks. And, and it kind of makes it, the important part of it that I like is the fact that we don't have to go above and beyond and get this fancy mask, that cost a lot or have to be delivered and all these things. You just can make it out of your own clothing, and it works for you. So thank you so much for making this easier for the community. So stay tuned for more questions. If anyone is in social media asking anything, I will get back to what is her name, Rune, to ask couple of questions that I had, probably that the community would like to know how it's affecting the rest of other people. When we are talking about the type of mental health, I know we have physical mental health, ill-being, and choice and control, perceptions. When I'm talking about physical health, what are the physical health that kind of attracts in our community, and the ill being, what are those, and the choices and control, which will be like, for example, the kids being at home, how is this affecting them, and perceptions, which are the self-esteem. How are we coping with that in our community? What other ideas do you have for them to kind of get used to this? This will be the question for Roon.
So I think right now, with the whole situation, it's very anxiety provoking for a lot of people. It was a very unexpected change. We didn't know that we would have to stop work, like we would have to work from home, that
Mhm.
schools would close. And that unexpectedness can cause that like anxiety of like, okay, I thought I knew how things were going to play out, and now this change has happened. How do I cope? And a lot of the parents are balancing a lot. So, like, those who are able to work from home are also having to teach their kids, and it's not that easy to work from home when your kids are also there and everyone's kind of, like, in the same area. So
Mhm.
it's really very stressful, like Fortune said, to have everyone together at one time.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the kids are also feeding off of that stress because some of the kids aren't really sure what's going on. They know, like, a change has happened, but they don't know exactly what that change is.
Mhm.
And if we're stressed out as parents and then the kids are picking up on that, that's why we have to take care of ourselves. We have to make sure that we find things that we can do to care for ourselves, to take small breaks, and not feel like we have to recreate school or we have to keep things like the schedule that we had. We have to be flexible so that way our kids can also adapt with us.
Yes.
Um, and just taking time to, like, check out, like, spend time with your kids. Don't, like, if they're feeling overwhelmed, connect with them, and just finding ways to cope and to maintain connection while adhering to the social distancing, policies that are in place. But taking it day by day, so that way you're not thinking about, "Okay, like, is this gonna end in 2 weeks?" And then it doesn't, and it gets extended, and then now you're feeling disheartened because it's
Mhm.
even longer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the self-esteem part that I kind of been hearing a lot is that, we have parents who are not educated, and their kids have been going to school lately, and now they have to be home, and they have to do classes or being taught and making sure they're doing a homework and all that stuff. How do you feel the parents are feeling right now, knowing that they're not educated and they have to be there for their kids to educate them, and getting this response back to the kids, back to their parents, like, you know how do they feel? Can you tell me about that a little bit, especially being a mom and a dad at home?
Yeah, so it's really it is really overwhelming to have to take on the role of a teacher, and I
Mhm.
think even if you are educated, I know I'm struggling with my kids because they teach differently, they teach things differently, and even though I went to school here, it's
It's
not the same. They're teaching math, like, in a whole new manner, and everything is online. So I can see how it would be very stressful and overwhelming for the parents to not only navigate it, but then you're also navigating potentially language barriers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you might have several different kids who are in different grades, so you're trying to teach all of those different grades. So it can be a lot. So I think parents finding a way, even if they have to use someone else to kind of be the go-between, but to explain to the teacher, like, this is a whole new way of being, and we're balancing a lot. So to to find what works for them. So, like, saying, like, it may not get done in the time that you need it to get done because I have 5 kids that I have to
Multi.
teach. Yeah. And I think once they find out what works for them and they explain that, that helps with, like, how they're feeling because then they're taking ownership of it and they're
Mhm.
doing what they can, which helps them feel more successful. So I think parents have to sort of be the advocate of, like, what's gonna work. Um,
Mhm.
and if that language barrier is there, finding someone that they trust to go between them and the teacher and explaining, "This is a reality of the situation, and this is what we can do."
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And just making sure that they're in control also, for the kids. And, I like the fact that you say that they can ask, so the helper is what they need to be open up to, telling the teachers that this is what I'm capable of doing, and not being overwhelmed. I was kind of I work from home, and for the first time, this is the first time I'm working from home. It wasn't an easy task for me. Matter of fact, just setting up the equipments at home, and I was like, oh my god, am I gonna get help? And I just kept sending back messages to my manager, and like, I need someone to call me. I need, and even if they're calling you, you're the one with the physical items here trying to put it together, so it kind of gets overwhelmed. And I was just like, oh my god, I can't even imagine kids working with their mother just to be on remotely on computers to read and getting their homework done and making sure the mom is cooking and doing everything. So yeah, thank you so much. Just asking for help makes it much easier. What are the things that can allow the organization, like organizing their time also? What would you advise our parents to do that at the moment?
So I would recommend that they have some sort of routine. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
to have a strict schedule because I feel like strict schedules can feel overwhelming. But having
Mm-hmm.
a routine so that the kid knows what to expect, they know
Mm-hmm.
that they're gonna wake up, maybe they have some free time, they have
Mm-hmm.
breakfast, and they do schoolwork. But having a routine, it helps the kid know, okay, tomorrow, like this is how the day is gonna play out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I've heard from a lot of parents, when this first started, they were like, okay, like let's give the kid like a break. They can work at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the kid is just like okay, like TV for hours and then playing
Yeah.
gets done, and then they feel like, okay, this isn't my normal. So finding some sort of routine so like they know what to expect, because I think anything that they can sort of expect and lean on during this time of uncertainty is helpful. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then also being flexible, like if they need a break, give them that break. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and don't feel like, okay, like I have to stick to like hour by hours planned out, but just know like, okay, after this activity, we're working on this assignment. After this, it's lunch. That way
Mm-hmm.
there you guys know what your day will look like.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Ron. That is so great advice for our stress family, the kids, and everyone that is going through this and feeling like it's not coming to an end. But inshallah, it will all be well. Especially right now, Ramadan is coming, and it's gonna be harder. Parents being hungry, cooking all evenings, and making sure that the kids are getting everything they need. Inshallah, we are all praying that it gets better. So I'm gonna go ahead. I know Roon doesn't have much time with us today. When it gets to 4 p.m., you can also leave Roon. I know you have other work to do, and I will continue with the rest of the people that are still live here, inshallah. Okay. Any advice you have for guests that are watching us today?
I think I would just recommend that they take it easy on themselves. They do what they can, take it day by day,
Inshallah.
and still find some way to connect with people. I know we're all practicing social distancing, I hope, but doing like Zoom calls with your friends, connecting with family over FaceTime, that way they're not feeling as isolated, but they're also practicing what they need to, like they're keeping away, but they're still maintaining connection because that's important too.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much, Roon. I appreciate that. I will go to Dr. Abdul Qadir. Dr. Abdul Qadir, I have a quick question for you. My question is, we are hearing that when the weather changes, it's okay to go out in May, June, July. What is your input in that? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Abdul Qadir, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the theory behind that is, these respiratory viral infections, a lot of them are, transmitted through droplets. So when you cough, when you spit, when you talk, sometimes the droplets might come out of your mouth and then they get carried over and then that's how it's transmitted to another person.
Mhm.
If it's warmer, then the droplets that one leaves, if let's say somebody is walking or coughing or sneezing, that droplets would sink quicker. They won't stay aerosolized. They won't stay float hanging out in the air for long if it's warm,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to when it's cold, then they hang around longer, and the probability that somebody else could get infected through that way is more probable, more likely. But we
Mm-hmm.
have that theory pan out with this particular virus because we're seeing infections happen in really warm weathers. Australia now, a lot of places in Asia and Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of cases in Djibouti, for instance. Djibouti is a really warm um, uh, place to live in general,
Mm-hmm.
very, very hot. So this theory might not necessarily, that hypothesis might not necessarily apply to this particular coronavirus. So we're just learning something new about this every day. So there's a lot to learn. So it's very humbling, you know.
Okay. Well, so you think that the weather will make it a difference because of that? And
I'm not.
is that why other countries are having less of it, such as Africa and you know?
No, no, not necessarily. I don't think they the disease has not gotten to certain countries in the same capacity it has gotten to the U.S., for instance. So no, I don't think it has anything to do with the weather. As
Mm-hmm.
no, for as far as we know, as of right now, there doesn't seem to be any difference in how warm the weather is and to the spread of this particular disease. We'll find out more. In the,
Inshallah. So, what makes them think it's safe later? How do we know it's safe later?
well, the main thing here's the main thing. So the reason, the whole reason behind this isolation and keeping distance is you want to make sure that all the people that contracted the disease have either recovered. So if you have let's say 1,000 people that got the disease in a town of let's say 5,000, 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
if you isolate that, if everybody practices isolation and social distancing, then
Mm-hmm.
you want to, what happens is you decrease the number of people with infection left in, let's say, when that incubation period ends, which is 14 days for this virus. So
Right.
later, either the people will get very, very sick and they'll be in the hospital, or they will have recovered by that point. So let's say you do 14-day isolation, and then you extend that another 14 days. So you're just minimizing the number of cases that are active that could
Yes.
spread the disease. Now, that theory, the problem with that theory too is the fact that you can always have new people come in into a certain community and increase the probability that infection will be spread by outsiders, people outside coming from outside the place, and that's how this has been spread in a lot of places. So
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Doc. Fartun, is there anything you would like to add on to that in regards to the community staying safe after you're such a hard work on everything that you're doing for us?
Not really. I just want to say that everybody who's out there who's gonna watch this, please make sure that you continue the social distance, and also Minnesota have started a protest that I saw it yesterday, and don't fall for that, please, because let's continue the way we were doing before. Let's quarantine ourselves. Let's stay at home. We're not locked down, obviously. If you can just think about it, there's some of the stores are open. We're going for shopping. We're getting things that we want. I think this is just a break for us to just, socialize with our families that we haven't been given the time that
Yeah.
we wanted. And don't think about what other people are thinking. Just continue what we're doing, and let's encourage each other that we don't fall for that. That's all I
So
want to.
so more positive, right? More positive, more we're really not locked down. We don't have all the army outside and we're not getting beaten up like Africa where they're getting wiped. Safety is the most important thing. The problem that we just had a little bit, and I think it's getting better in our community, it was the fact that we take things very lightly. You know, I went to a place where they sell sambusa in Chicago, Minneapolis here, and I remember we were lined up, and they were allowing specific numbers of people to go just inside, maybe three or two. And I saw this lady, she was not listening to the rules, and everybody was telling her, like, you still have to wait outside. And she was like, Wahan, what is I'll say it in English. She was like, it's not a big deal, it's just a cold. And I'm looking at her like, no, it's not just a cold. This is a deadly disease. People are dying. So
Yeah.
the fact she's an elderly person and taking it such a lightly way just to risk her life on that moment, it just shocked me. And everybody's like, no, 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 just follow the rules, even if you believe it was just, not a big deal. So this is not
Totally.
a lightly thing to be passed by. And that's why I had Dr. Abdul Qadir to kind of send this message out there, that we may think it's not a big deal, we may think that it's something, that it's a simple cold and we're going to get better at the end of the day, and just kind of meet around and do whatever we want and assuming we're going to be fine. It's not. You don't know how long this is going to take you. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Fortuna. I appreciate. And one more thing I just wanted to tell you is that, you know the hard work that you're doing, you're giving back to the community. It is not it's not notable by the way you're doing it, just the most toughest time of our community. We are going through a lot, and you are there to help by getting a lot of safety equipments for them. So thank you so much, Fartun. That is a excellent work that you're doing. Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Shukri, for having us. Thank you for doing this
Yeah,
great job for put
yeah.
all this together and being there for the community too by
Thank you.
showing people who have resources for the community that don't know where to go or who to help.
Mhm.
Like Abdul Qadir is here. Anyone who wants to ask questions can even try to find out the link or ask him. So this is a great resource. I really appreciate for what you're doing too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, Dr. Abdul Qadir, tell me a little bit about the fact that when we're going to the parks and we are walking, and some of us are feeling so confident, they don't wear the mask and they know they're keeping their distance. How about that? Can I pass next to someone by the park and just assume this is not going to get into me and I'm fine? Should I be assuming that? Or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I mean, uh, right? You can hear me. Okay. Good.
Yes.
So the problem is, no. I mean, what I've seen at the parks are people are not keeping that appropriate distance, and that could be a problem. That could be a problem. And a lot of the young people, it's really hard to convince them that this is a serious, serious problem. Um, Now, if you don't see somebody with the disease, it's hard to, imagine or figure what one looks like. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Will come into the hospital where they're just kind of they're complaining about a little bit of cough or a little fever. 2 3 days later, they're on a ventilator. They're intubated. They have their throat and they can't breathe, and they're in coma basically. So, and people that have some, and it varies. I've seen somebody as young as 21 to as old as somebody in their 90s. So it can happen to anyone. Nobody's immune to this.
Okay.
There's a lot of rumors going around and saying that it doesn't affect a certain age or it doesn't affect a certain people. Or that is all rumors. It can happen to anyone. So I would say if you go to the park, make sure if you can find face mask, that would be good. If you can cover your face, that's nice. Put something over your face. Keep distance. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I have some friends the other day that they were telling me about. They went to Lake Calhoun. And they're walking around. There's a lot of people there and very
Yes.
close where they're walking. So that's not social distancing at all. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so a lot of people at that point, and anybody could be asymptomatic carrier.
Okay.
So that's a problem.
Yeah, it is. And I can tell you that for sure because go for a walk, and I've noticed that as well. Tell me a little bit about the status of the hospital. We do not have a background of what's really happening inside the real situation. Tell us a little bit about that, and that
So
the.
I mean, as you know, we haven't been hit as hard as some of the other places. Um,
Mhm.
Number of cases are very low. It's in the low 12, 1300, around that number. I haven't checked lately, but last time I
Yeah.
checked, 12 or 1300, I think. and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of about 600 or 700 people have recovered, and the deaths
Mm-hmm.
are low. So we have not been affected as much. So that means, we haven't really required a full capacity of the hospitals to kind of engage, which means, a lot of people, we haven't had shortages of ventilators and um, other things. Um, we haven't had shortages of PPE to my knowledge. So far we've done okay here in Minnesota. But I got an email the other day that we haven't hit our peak yet. Our peak is coming. It's, coming sometime in early May. This is what we're thinking now. So it's possible that it could get worse. You know, especially if they reopen too soon.
Okay.
So um,
Tell me when we're talking about recovery, explain this to the community and the audience are watching us and the people who are tuning in the television. When you're already having this infectious disease and you are recovering from it, is this a last long thing that could come anytime, or does it really go away when you recover from it? Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so recovery by definition, the way it's now it's been defined is to be afebrile, have no fevers, 72 hours for 72 hours, okay, or have no symptoms for 7 days. So
Mm-hmm.
you went to the hospital, you were coughing, and you're having trouble breathing, and you're requiring oxygen. You're not doing well, and then you did okay for a couple of days, and then you were sent home, or you still were in the hospital for a little bit of time. So recovery, by the definitions we're using, is to be asymptomatic. So your symptoms to resolve for 7 days after you,
Mm-hmm.
or to have no fevers for 72 hours. So if you don't have any fever for 72 hours after the infection, your chances of the chances that you can transmit the virus is very low, actually. So we're telling people to go, okay, they can go back to work if they don't have fevers for more than 72 hours. Or let's say somebody gets exposed to the virus,
Right.
which incubation period is 14 days. So you can develop the symptoms at a mean, usually about 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
5 to 10 days usually when people have symptoms. So let's say you get exposed to the virus, you isolate yourself for 14 days. So that's the amount of time that one can develop symptoms. After that, you're not going to develop symptoms.
Okay. So
So the second question you had was, okay, can somebody get infected once they had an infection? No,
mhm,
usually that's from what we know from these sort of viral respiratory infections. Usually if one has the infection and they mount immune response, they
mhm,
build immunity to it, unless there's a new strain that comes. So the strains that we have so far, a few strains of the COVID or the corona SARS
right. Mhm,
2. So the strains that we have, they're very similar to each other. So we haven't seen what we see in the flu or influenza, where there's what we call an antigenic drift or shift, where the strains become quite different and they act very different.
okay.
So from what we know now, once you have it, you're not gonna get it again. At least from what we have now.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, and when you have it too, also, and you're told that you recover, it's not contagious. You just stay away, and it's not a contagious thing. Are there medication given to the recovery people?
No, no. Once you recover, you don't need any medications. Well, once if you have the virus, there are some medications we're using, but again, these medications that are under trial, clinical trials. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a few of them that have been. Uh, I think you might have heard of the hydroxychloroquine, which is a anti-malarial
Yes.
drug used for rheumatic diseases. So that is one that we are using, and we're using it as off-label because it's not really a drug meant for this virus. And there's the data that we have so far. It's not very strong, actually, that it does help at all. There was a trial that was done in France where they looked at people that had the virus, and what it showed is, the number of viral particles um, after 4 days was decreased while somebody was on this drug. But the study didn't take into account the number of people that required critical care, went to the ICU, and got put on ventilators, or the number of people that died. So it's not a strong study. So uh, a lot of people are basing off hydroxychloroquine being an effective drug based on that weak trial. There's another trial that came out in China that actually said this is actually does not it's not effective at all. So the drug might not be effective. We need to learn a lot more. There are other drugs. There's one called remdesivir that was created for Ebola. That seems effective too. So, but that is also under clinical trial. And then there's another group of medication called the IL-6 inhibitors. Those are also being tried. So, tocilizumab being one of them. So there's a lot to learn. We don't know enough. There's a lot to learn. So right now, if I told you that there's a drug that's a magic pill that works for this, I'll be lying. But hopefully, in several months, when we have more data, we'll know.
Okay, thank you. And we are being told to be safe and to stay away from. How are the doctors? How are they doing? The ones who are putting their life at risk for us. I hear there's a lot of death of them also. How are they doing? How are they distancing themselves at the same time and helping these sick individuals? How?
So early on, what we saw is a lot of the ER staff, whether nurses, doctors, technicians, anybody that works in the emergency room, they were getting infected quite a bit actually because they were not wearing the appropriate equipment or personal protective equipment. And partly the problem was we didn't know how many of the people that are coming with a cough or a fever actually had the virus or not. So the for instance, one of the hospitals that I was working, there were a couple of ER physicians that got the infected
Okay.
and recovered. So, so the ER, the healthcare workers, respiratory therapists, people that the therapy, respiratory therapists are usually involved in intubating these patients. If their oxygenation is getting worse, they need a ventilator, and you expose yourself because while you're doing that, you aerosolize the particles, the viral particles that live in the upper respiratory tract at that point, and you can infect yourself at that. Because a lot of respiratory therapists got also exposed, anesthesiologists. So anybody that has very close contact with the patient and in some form, so the problem with this virus is it gets aerosolized. If somebody on a ventilator, so what that means is the viral particles can go and form a small bubble that goes up into the stays in basically afloat for up to it can stay afloat for up to several hours, 3 to 4 hours, and that viral particle can be inhaled by somebody else. Um, so those are the sort of healthcare workers that are getting the heavy.
Infected. Okay.
They're the ones that have been exposed. But again, they did a study in China where they sampled the air in an ICU, and they found the particles everywhere in the
Mhm.
and so this is a very infectious, contagious virus. So I think
Mhm.
healthcare worker has to take precautions: wash your hands, cover up, wear a mask, surgical mask, a knife, or whatever you have. So
And we're hoping you're keeping safe as well. Well, thank you so much. Those were amazing advices and a lot of informative information that our community needed to hear from someone who is really inside the real situation in the hospital and working towards that and making us feel safe also by telling us all this information that we need. What are the last thing you would like to tell people who are watching us and live right now?
inshallah, I'll tell what I would say to them is be careful. gacmaha dhaqda,
Mhm.
social distance. muxuu ahaay insha allah ilaahay tawakal muxuu ahaay talada saar.
And then wear the mask and Make sure that when you're walking outside, you're safe and
Sorry.
all. Yeah, thank you so much. I also appreciate Saeeda was the one who introduced me to you, so I am really thankful to you and Saeeda by taking part on this and supporting our community and being the voice for the community to understand the real issues that we have and not taking it easy. So thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Qadir. It was nice meeting you and also being part of Dose of Reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shukran. All right, Fartoon, are you there?
Yes, Shukri. Thank you so
Any
much for having us.
Yeah, any message you have last for the community?
Not really. It's just that if anyone who's really in need for masks, they can request from us and go to our website, and
Good.
there's a link. They can, sawak-mn.org, and they can just go there and request it. We will be able to give them some, even though we are under project of giving to their North Memorial hospitals. It's waiting for us, and
Yes.
we will still gonna help, and we'll love to give back. So that's all
Sounds great.
I can say.
Thank you, Fartoon. I really appreciate you being here with us today. And great job doing what you're doing and keep doing it, inshallah. We're all trying our best to make the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Shukri. Have a
All
great
right. Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone that is watching us at Dose of Reality today. Ramadan is coming. Happy Ramadan to all my audience and everyone who are tuning in with us. I will only have one more last show for you guys before well, after Ramadan. I think next Saturday we'll try to have a sheikh that will come in and discuss with us how can we go about Ramadan without going to the mosque, and if by any chance going to the mosque, what are the routines steps we will be taking, inshallah. I can tell you this for sure. Ramadan is going to be very, very hard this time, not going to the mosque and praying Tarawih and Tahajjud. But let's all pray hard, inshallah, and be connected to Allah and make sure that we have faith in Allah that this will pass too. So, inshallah, stay tuned for one more show next Saturday. And then from there, we'll take a break until further notice. It was nice having you all in our show. Thank you, Fortune, once again. And everyone, have a great evening. Take care.